have to do, and then
It's really nice to see some new faces in this process. Thank you so much for your willingness to be able to do this. It really can be a very rewarding experience. It can also be a very frustrating experience, as anyone that's been doing it can tell you. But that will depend a lot upon the kid, not necessarily upon you. This orientation is both for the extended essay and the reflective project, but I don't think we have any reflective project supervisors here right now, but they will be able to listen to this training later. These two projects are probably two of the most important elements of the IB program, and your help and guidance to these students will be invaluable. Your help and expertise can also mean the difference between a student receiving a grade that will contribute to their completion of the program and a grade that will prevent them from completing the program. If they fail the extended essay or reflective project, they cannot get the diploma or the career endorsement. So it's very important that they do a job that is the best that they can. And the more that you can help guide them, the more chance they have of doing that. Some of them will not choose to do that, but that's their choice, not yours. In addition, this particular program requirement, the extended essay and reflective projects, are two of very rare things. They are independent on their transcript. When their transcript will be sent to colleges and universities, it has this grade on it. You don't usually see that for independent projects, but it's good. Now, the big question is, why does IB have this project? You have to look at it in terms of the whole idea of what IB is, and these are the program models. Each circle represents elements of the program that support further circles as the model moves closer to the center. At the heart of the program is the learner profile. All other parts or elements, including these projects, are in support of the learner profile. Approaches to teaching and approaches to learning are your contributions of how you help them get to that ultimate goal. Curriculum also supports those elements. The ultimate objectives are the learner profile. These are the learner profile 10 aspects that each student we are striving to develop in each and every student. And of course, big elements that your project will be about are being inquirers, being thinkers and open-minded, risk takers, balanced, reflective, which are the ability to go beyond the facts and figures and analyze, compare, and contrast and take a stand. And then communicators, the ability to present the information in a clear, concise way, and persuasive way. One thing that you need to remember as we talk about what you do as a supervisor, there seems to be a lot of limits that you do, but one of the basic and most important tenets of the IB program is to develop independent learners. And this is a project that really, really works towards that goal. They are really left a lot to their own with your guidance, hence helping them learn how to be independent learners. The extended essay and the research project should be an exercise in independent learning skills. Okay. Now, what are the research projects? First of all, the extended essay. Extended essay must be completed, as are all components, for all students who want to be considered for an IB diploma. If the student receives a failing grade, it is graded externally by people internationally. It creates what's called a failing condition, which means that they cannot get the full diploma. Although it is ultimately externally assessed, IB is extremely transparent, and they have provided exactly what the criteria will be for the assessment of the extended essay. With that criteria, you will also be grading their work along the way, and also providing a final grade, which is called a predicted grade, based on that same criteria. Now, students are encouraged to choose their own topic. That is one of the best parts of the extended essay. we have really drilled into them that they need to choose something that they really enjoy. IB does not care one iota what they research. What they do care is how they research, analyze, contrast, compare, and present. So we really, 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 really have tried to encourage these kids to choose something that they really enjoy. Their subject is not going to impress IB or their readers. What will impress their readers and IB is how they gather and present the information. However, there are some limitations. The subject really should be something they are either studying, preferably on the higher level, or something that they have extensive experience in already. And as a supervisor, your expertise is not just in your area that you teach, but can also be extended to other areas. For example, I always use music because that's my area, but a student whose essay is more music history oriented would not go in the subject area of music. It would go in the subject area of history, but I or Christy or Renee could supervise that essay because it is a music history essay. So even though the subject area may move slightly out of what your designated No Child Left Behind, what is it called? I can't even remember anymore. The highly qualified educator status that you may be, although it may move out of that subject area, you may be still just as qualified to supervise in that essay as if it were in your quote-unquote subject area. There are so many different areas that these kids have had to choose from. And as you can see, they've already kind of chosen a general subject based on what you see there. But all of these subjects were available to them, and the topics within the subjects are innumerable. So it really does give them a lot of choice and freedom. Okay? For the extended essay, like I said, it must be completed by them for them to receive the diploma. The same for the research reflective project. It also must be completed by the student in order to be considered for the career program. However, theirs are a bit different. It's internally assessed, which means that the supervisors for the reflective project will actually be the ones that are graded. And then it's externally moderated like our other subjects in IB. There'll be a sample chosen and sent out, and those will be evaluated internationally to make sure that we're all on the same page. Their subject area is not as open, but they get to choose an ethical dilemma in their own career pathway and write on that. We have 6 career students, and so they will all be going with the reflective project. However, their presentation is a lot more open. Your presentation as extended essay supervisors is a research paper. The presentation of their research can be in any viable presentation form. A paper, a website, a play, a film, a PowerPoint presentation, all of those types of things. So that's where their ability to choose a viable presentation method that works with their career pathway is part of what they're being evaluated on. The aims of both of these projects are to help students with the opportunity to pursue independent research on a focused topic, develop those research and communication skills, and it is a development of the process. Because you'll be working with these students over 9 months, it's not just, here's the project, get it done, now we're going to grade you. It's a process of you helping them refine their ability to research and their ability to communicate clearly, to develop the skills of creative and critical thinking. They have to go beyond the facts, to engage in a systematic process of research appropriate to their particular subject, and ultimately, hopefully, to experience the joy of learning, and that learning and research can be fun. Now, we all know that if we are jazzed about a certain subject, it's fun. Not always is it fun, but ultimately the whole experience is fun. If we're not, it's not fun. That's why we try to emphasize so much that these kids choose an area that they are really, really interested in. Because that's part of the process, for them to realize that learning can be fun. Okay? Again, for the extended essay, IB does not care what they write about. It's about how well they do it. Original research will not fulfill the requirement, even if it's of a world-shaking magnitude. Cure cancer, great. They present it as a research paper in the biology journal, great. Is it an extended essay? No. And they'll get a poor grade. And then the year before I became coordinator, lovely me, that next year I had to deal with parents and students who were extremely upset that the extended essay had gotten a C. It was a biology research project that was published in a national journal because it was so good and earth-shaking, and he's wonderful. And he still got a C. And we had it regraded, and it still got a C because it was too much dependent upon his original research. That's not what an extended essay is. It's not a master's thesis or a doctoral dissertation, but it is an extensive research project on a high school level. It's also not on the scope of war and peace, and not a cure for cancer or any other equally wonderful thing. It's not original research only, and it's not a narrative or a book report. That's the rut that kids really get stuck in. It's not about where, when, or what. It's about how and why. And their research questions have to deal with that type of subject. How and why. The student's voice is vital, both in the style and in their analyzation. They have to take a stand, and they have to be able to do it well. And sometimes they have to not necessarily do the most thing that they're jazzed about in order to do that. They can't just quote others and not fulfill the requirement, and they can't do something that's been done ad nauseum. As we told the kids, if we saw one more essay on the Christian allusions in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings cycle, we would have to throw up, and there's no way. I mean, yes, there are wonderful things about that, but can they find something new in that? No, it's been done ad nauseum, to death, whatever cliche you want to use. And so, or the Harry Potter books, or how Victorian society is magnified in Jane Austen books. I mean, really, you know? Oh, silly me. Something else about Jane Austen books that has been done ad nauseum. Now, there are things that may have been done before, but if they find conflicting opinions and then they analyze the conflicting opinions and take a stand, that is a viable thing to do. So, now, in your extended essay handbook, which I printed up for you and will also be available to you online, there are several things that we've already kind of talked about that I would still really, it would be very helpful if you would read about these things. The nature of the extended essay, the aims, the assessment objectives, and the responsibilities of the student, the responsibilities of the school, and the responsibilities of the supervisor are very important for you to read. And we'll be going over some of those things here, but it's still important for you to do. This comes from a much bigger book, this one, that I kind of edited down to Redux so that you didn't have to look at this big one all the time. Okay? The reflective project book also, IB actually kind of reduxed this on their own, but it also has several things here at the beginning that are really important for you as reflective project supervisors to do. Now, the teacher edition you all have right now, but you will also have access to the extended essay guide through our website, which is the Hillcrest High School website, click on IB program, click on handouts, and it's there. It will also be available on the online curriculum center. You will get within, hopefully, if I can keep my sanity this week, you hopefully will get a PDF that will contain your login information to be able to go on the online curriculum center site. And if you go to the extended essay part of the site, any of the IB teachers should be able to help you navigate the site. It's much more user-friendly now than it used to be, but you can access the guide at any time on there. Okay, first of all, we're going to look at the research and writing of these projects. For those of you with extended essay, this is important. The second half of this book that is access to you and that I have on our site goes through each of those subject areas specifically. For example, this is the area of economics. And there are 3 or 4 pages, 3 to 6 pages, that talk about specifically what must be contained in an essay if it is submitted in that particular subject area. Now, if you're familiar with Adobe PDF documents, if you download the PDF onto your computer and you click on the bookmarks, I've bookmarked it so that there are all, you can go to part 2, which are the subject details, and do the little arrow and they will all drop down and you can go to your own subject, so you don't have to flip through the whole thing to find it. But each of those 40 subjects are detailed in this book. And it's going to be easier for you to look at it, navigate a PDF. So that's really important. Okay? As they continue to refine their research question with you and with them, they, with your guidance, need to find the subject area that it fits best in. Again, I'll go back to the example of music. If a kid actually is analyzing a piece or a series of pieces of music, it's a music essay. If they're analyzing periodic style between 2 different types of periods of music, then it's a history essay. That we know because of what it says has to be contained in a music essay and what has to be contained in a history essay. So if their question moves around and isn't quite fitting in one area, then give them other suggestions. Perhaps you need to look at this question in terms of this, or this subject area. Find a subject area that's going to work. And you have to help them nail that down. I want them to be able to have the freedom of being able to choose the question that they want and then fitting it in the subject. So when they got the subjects, all of those different subjects, I didn't show them this. And I told them why. Because I didn't want them to feel stifled by, well, I want to do it on biology. Well, that means I have to do exactly this, this, and this. No, I want them to find their question and then let's fit it where it goes. Okay, now their questions are what the department people looked at when they decided that you would be the best person to mentor or to supervise this particular essay, not necessarily the subject areas. So there again, if their question stays in that area, they felt the department chairs and the IB teachers felt that you would be best able to help them in that. It's really important that you know the criteria. There is general criteria that is printed in your Hillcrest book that we'll go over here in just a minute, of the rubric that they are graded on. And it's the last thing that's contained in your booklets. Those are the general criteria. For extended essay supervisors, part of that 3 to 6 page stuff that's here takes each one of those criteria and goes specifically in that subject area how they're going to be graded. So you have the general and then you have the subject specific in the back. So know what those things are as you are working with these students. To help them, they will know them as well. And sometimes you need to say, okay, look at this criteria. Are you really addressing this in the right way based on the way they're going to grade you? And help them and guide them to use the outline and the criteria that's been given them to make it the best it can be. You don't have to show them how it's done, but you can guide them to look at it. Okay, and to do that. Okay? Students should really, again, leave summary elements of the format to the end. They can start with an introduction, but really, a student, by the time they really have put their whole body of paper together, most of them will probably want to rewrite their introduction. Abstract should be the very last thing they do. Conclusion, one of the very last things to do. All of those summary elements of the paper, encourage them to save those to the very end. Okay? The formal presentation of this paper is very, very clear in their book and in your book. First of all, for extended essays, it is 4,000 words maximum. That word limit is set in stone. They will actually stop reading at 4,000 words. Okay? And my guess is they're going electronic with submission maybe even next year, I don't know. And when it's electronic submission, they will be able to really accurately know exactly when it's 4,000 words. And they are not allowed to grade after that. So that really is actually an advantage, because if the kids do choose something that they are really jazzed about, huge chances are they're going to end up with more than 4,000 words. So what then did they have to learn how to do? They have to learn how to edit. And how many of us have had to learn how to do that? All of us. It's part of what the process is. So it helps them to be able to have you supervise their editing process. Now this slide shows what's not included in the word count. The abstract, any acknowledgments, the contents page, any of their diagrams or charts or anything, equations, formulas, calculations, citations and references, footnotes or endnotes, the bibliography, the appendices, all of those are not included in the word count. But they cannot try to hide information that's vital to the paper in those things in order to get under the 4,000 words. The kids, again, that have been jazzed about their papers have tried to do that in the past, and I had to call Connor on it because he was so much over in it. You can't do that, Connor. In your footnotes, you can't have vital information for the paper. You know, you can have definitions, you can have information like that. But the analysis and the vital information has to be within the body of the paper that counts towards that word count. For the reflective project, again, the formal presentation is outlined in the reflective project, but it's different because they have different ways of presenting. So it can be different. But they also have maximum limits as well. 3,000 if it's presented as a paper, so many slides if it's a PowerPoint, so long if it's a film, and so on. So they have limits as well. IB doesn't want them getting so stressed and excessive in this that it becomes dominant in the process. Okay? One of the biggest things that they need to do at this point is choose a system of referencing. Make sure, with your help, that they understand what that system is and that they start using it now as they research. That they're gathering from their sources what they need to do to do it well. Now, psychology, we do usually stick with APA. I know for art history, Judith sticks with Turabian, basically. Most of the rest of the faculty sticks with MLA, which is just fine with me. What we do need to have, though, is that all of the biology papers, you all supervisors need to decide what system you're going to use, and you all do it. All of the English teachers need to decide what system is, and you all do it. Or have your students do it, I should say. Why is that? Because when we send them out to be graded, all of one particular subject area goes to one grader. And we've had readers tell us that when they come with different systems from the same school, it automatically irritates them. And when the reader's irritated, they then we're human, they don't grade as well. So that's why the system and the formatting of which I'll get to in a minute too, has to be consistent across your department. So whatever system you decide to use. What's that? Okay, good. History is MLA. Good. Okay. So these are some examples of the style, and one thing that I do encourage you to do is do what's accepted in the field. Okay? And most fields are moving towards MLA, except for the arts, who are still doing Terrabrian. Well, good. Music may come out of the dark ages someday, but probably not. So, okay. Now, what can you do in the process? Help the students focus on either the ethical dilemma for the research project or the research question for the extended essay that is more than narrative, but that is either broad enough or narrow enough for the size of the project. That is really important. That's one of the first important things that you have to do, is get them to a research question that's appropriate. We have had examples of some of the broadest research questions that you can imagine, you know. And I could give you examples, but my old brain can't think that far right now. So you need to make sure that they narrow it down and specify it as much as possible. Like, how did the music of Beethoven move us from the classical to the Romantic period? That is just way too broad. How did the piano sonatas of Beethoven show the movement from classical to Romantic style? That can be fit in 4,000 words. So sometimes they need to narrow it down to location, narrow it down to character. You know, how does this book compare to this book? No. Find two characters or find two foils or find whatever to really narrow it down. But there again, it can't be so narrow that it can be covered in a page and a half, and then it has to be padded to get anything after that. So you need to be able to do that. Okay? You will be having meeting times with these children, and I had you pick up an example of the first meeting time, the form that you will help fill out. You will have 3 of these meetings with them before we get to the end of this school year. They are to fill out everything above supervisor to fill out remaining. You then fill out the time, length of the meeting, and then it tells you exactly what you're supposed to be assessing and what they're supposed to bring to that meeting. Then you just click on the box of your own personal judgment of how well they are doing up to that point, and any comments. As you can see, the comments that I gave on Harvey Husky were very limited and small. That's all I need. Okay? Just, they're on their way, they're struggling with this, they need da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay? These are submitted electronically, and I actually have a YouTube video that shows you how to submit the forms when I send them to you. So hopefully we can do that. I demand the kids learn how to do it. For you guys, if you don't get it quite right, then that's fine. Okay, but it is easier to submit it online for you and for me if we do that. Okay, the time that you spend with them and that you spend reading and evaluating and working with them on their essay should not exceed 8 hours. For reflective project, it should not exceed 5 hours. That's from here all the way till next January. Okay, so if you're spending more than that amount of time with them, you're doing too much for them. Okay, now if they miss every single appointment and never come and work with you, and their choice, you have a chance at the end to write a little summary of their work and what they did and what and if they say, if you didn't spend any time with them, please tell us why. And you can say they never came. We have a couple of students this year that are very much that way. Keep a log of your time as you do that. Allow them time to meet with you within those times and listen to their concerns. Help them through roadblocks. We all know that we need help through roadblocks, especially in their research areas. One thing these kids aren't familiar with are good avenues of academic research. They don't know journals like we know journals. They have trouble even understanding what a journal is right now. But for you to say, you need to look at sources from the Journal of Jazz Music Education, or the Journal of course, I'm using music again because that's my field, or the American Choral Directors Association Journal, or then that will help them. They don't know, they're not familiar with those names of those research avenues that you learned about in college. And so that's very helpful for them. Don't find articles for them. Don't do that. But tell them you're going to find some good help in this particular journal, or or with this author, or even look at this particular book, if you have suggestions like that. Those types of things can help them through their roadblock. Don't find the sources, help them know how to find them. Now, critique their work, but don't rewrite for them. Okay? Let them figure out how to make it better. And you can do that through guiding questions. Read this sentence for me. Is that really, what are you trying to say there? I'm not getting it. How can you make that clearer? There was one particular girl that I mentored a while back who had the analyzation of the piece in the first section and then the historical aspects of the piece in the second section of her paper. It was a great paper, but it took me 3 or 4 times telling her, you've got it backwards. It's not flowing right. It's better to give the context and then look at and finally she switched them, and the paper flowed much better. That you can't even be that specific, but I didn't rewrite it for her and say this is the way you should be doing it. And it took me 3 or 4 times of that suggestion for her to get, oh, okay, and then she got it and did it. Okay. There will be 2 summer communications to you. One is the 1st of July and one is the 1st of August. They are to submit to you 1,500 words of writing by the first one and 2,500 words by the 1st of August. They do need a reply from you. If they don't need a rewrite from you. They need comments like, you're on the right track, keep going. You're getting a little bit off on this tangent. Is that really where you want to go? If so, we're going to need to tweak your research question. This is crap. No, you don't need to say it in that way. But to say, this is padding, this is unnecessary information, things like that. Okay? Not a detailed critique. Yeah. As quick as you can. If you're going to be out of town or something like that, just let them know that before we break for the summer, in your last meeting before you meet with them in the summer, and just tell them, I'm not going to be available from here to here, but I will get back to you as soon as I'm back. Or you can get this assignment to me by this time. Can I move if they want the comments, yeah.
You can't really do any major editing except on one copy, which is their rough draft, their final rough draft. So in those summer meetings, my suggestion for other people who haven't done this before is let them know that you got the essay.
Right, let them know you got it.
Very, very general commentaries.
General commentaries.
I think you need to narrow your research question further.
I think you need to narrow your research question, things like that. I'm repeating what you're saying because I'm recording this for the people who aren't here.
Right, okay, and don't get into, you've got a lot of spelling errors.
Oh, no.
Or anything.
Don't get into anything about spelling, grammar, and never will you do that.
Once, and you can't even really copy it ever.
Okay? Keeping them on the right track and watching for plagiarism. And kids don't realize how obvious plagiarism is. Okay? And you can solve that by just saying, should there be a citation here? Perhaps? And so, and I'm of the ilk that you can never oversight. Never oversight. Okay? When we return back to school next year, the midnight before the first day of school, they are required to have a complete rough draft submitted to turn it in. Complete. The only thing not there is the abstract. Everything else. That will be submitted to you. That is the one and only time that you can really close read and tear apart this essay. What you can't do, though, is correct grammar and spelling. You can't redline it. But what I really emphasize to the kids is you're not their only resource. Anyone can do that for them. Anyone. Anyone. My wife read every single music paper that I did in Cincinnati. Every single one. Is she a musician? No. Could she tell me if it flowed right? Yes. Could she tell me about spelling errors? Yes. Could she, all of those types of things. So it doesn't matter how many other sources they have, but for you, that is your one and only time to do a close reading, and it's not editorial. You can't redline it. They will be told that they are to record, whether that's writing, whether that's sound recording, whatever, that meeting with you. And you need to tear it apart. One thing that we are really trying, it's so frustrating when a student comes back to us and says, oh, my supervisor just said it's a great paper, good. No. No paper is ever perfect, ever. There are things you can find to tear apart in it, and just tear it apart. They will know that that's your job at that point. Every little thing, is this right? Are you citing his? Is this backed up enough? Are you analyzing this? There's not enough analyzation. All of those types of things. You need to take a stronger stand. All of those types of things. You're presenting both viewpoints on either side of the subject, but you're not showing why your stand is the right one between the two. Those types of things, really just let them have it. You must use the rubric. You have to use the rubric. And show them why they're only getting 1 out of 4 points in a certain area, or 1 point out of 3. Or have them discover why. Why did I only give you 1 point? Read this section. Why did I? Okay, that needs to be fixed. They need to have a copy of that rubric that you hand to them at the end. Now, Sunny has 1-page things of the rubric. You can also copy it out of the book I've given you if you want more room to write what you want to think about, or room to write in their paper, whatever. Just give them where you have at least circled the scores that you would give the paper so far. Okay? Now, they will then have time to take it back between the 30th of September. You need to have that meeting with them by then, and the end of first quarter, to go back and finish everything, including writing the abstract, getting everything done, submitting it to Turnitin. I will then print out a final copy that they have turned in there, and you will read it, and here's where you decide what you're going to do with the kid between second quarter, between the end of first quarter to the end of second quarter. So by midterms, you need to have read midterm of second quarter, read and told the kid what predicted grade you would give. And I would say, this is the predicted grade that I would give this paper at this point. If the kid weeps and wails and gnashes their teeth because, how can I can't double C? Okay. Then I will give you until a week, 2 weeks, whatever deadline you have, to submit to me something else. I'll reread it, regrade it, and tell you. And if they say, well, what's wrong with it? You say, go back to our meeting that you diligently took notes on and recorded in September, and find what you missed. You cannot close read it again for them. You should not have to. They should be able to go back to that and do it again. And if you've done another rubric and circled the numbers, they can see the areas where they've gone down in that and go back to what you discussed in your September meeting and be able to fix it, in theory. You can do as many of those tweaking deadlines as you want until the end of second quarter. By the end of second quarter, we have to be done. Okay? Okay. Each one will be submitted through Turnitin, so we check for plagiarism. But please be aware of the writing style of the student, because if they've hired somebody to write it for them, that's not going to show up on Turnitin. And if you question the writing style, talk to their English teacher. Bring a couple of examples to their English teacher and say, is this their writing style? Their English teacher will know. Okay? Resources are not plagiarism if they're cited. If they cite and cite and cite and cite, that's fine. But it can't just be the quotation and citations of other people. They then need to take it and analyze it and take a stand and come to another conclusion of their own. Okay? But help them understand the difference between a paraphrase and an act where quotation should be. And I will go over that with them too, but you need to help understand, you need quotes here, quotation marks. This isn't paraphrased enough, or you need to paraphrase this better. Okay? But again, you don't need to be the students only sounding board. They can have other people do this for them too. After we have done all that, I will then print up another copy after I have gone through the formatting nightmare that I go through. And any help that you can give me with the formatting nightmare would be appreciated. On our website is formatting instructions as to exactly how students should format their papers at Hillcrest High School. We came up with this a while back, and it not only has verbal instructions, it then has little charts and diagrams and how, for those of you who did your college stuff before computers, and you know the Turabian manuals and that you had to look up and saw all the examples, I tried to do that as much as possible. And they have to do this, and I will not print up a final copy till it's right. So if you, during your times where you read their stuff, if you say, your formatting is really wrong, that would really help me. Okay? Your margins are off, your page number, whatever. Just help me. Help me, help me, help me. I still have 4 extended essays I haven't printed off because they're still wrong. Ugh. Anyway. But then when you get that, you will get the folder that IB sends out if we're doing hard copy submissions again next year. The paper inside it, you read it, you give it the final you do a final rubric on it, and you give me the final points, and then we do the predicted grade from that. And then you have what's called the Viva Voce, which is just a summary. What did you learn? It's also a time where you can check for plagiarism. And I had to do that last year with a kid that I was mentoring. It just didn't sound like him. So I pulled stuff out of his paper and had detailed questions about it. He answered all of them correctly. So I could do nothing but accept the fact that it probably was his own work, even though it sounded way above him. But when he talked about the questions he gave were also very detailed and very analytical and so it helped me feel a little bit more comfortable with it. But you can do that to check to make sure what you're reading in the paper is really theirs. And it helps you then write the supervisor's report. The supervisor's report's very short and sweet and to the point. Okay? The assessment criteria, again, in the back. That's why I put this at the end. Please, please, please read through that and be very familiar with what this assessment criteria is. It is very, very clear on the things that they're looking for. And then when you look at the subject-specific areas, it goes even into more detail. If you've had experience with IB, or if this is your first experience with IB, they are so transparent on what's expected of the kids. Because it's not so much, again, what they know, but how well they know it. So they will be very clear about what they expect the students to know. Okay? So please use that criteria. They will have a copy, you will have a copy. Remember that narratives are not acceptable. Book reports are not acceptable. Telling the story is not good enough. They have to go beyond that. Okay? Now, the big important part for you, compensation. Because you will be compensated for this. Up to 8 hours plus today. 8 hours, up to 8 hours plus today. And there are 2 categories of compensation. So as you log your time, we ask you to log it in 2 different ways. Number 1 is face-to-face time with the student. That's according to district rules. And you will be paid for as much face-to-face time you have with the student on your hourly rate. Okay? The other log is other Like when you're reading the paper, when you're evaluating the paper, when you're doing anything else that's related to this student and what they're doing. Those hours as well are logged. You will be paid on the in-service rate for those hours. Okay? There are 2 times when you need to submit the hours. One is the end of this school year by June 1st, hopefully, where you can submit everything for this school year. And then one again when you hand in the final copy in the yellow folder in February of the next year. Please don't, oh, I forgot to send in my stuff. Oh, I forgot I spent this time, and give us log hours from April next February, because the district does not like that at all. Okay? They want you paid in the academic year that you do it. They want you paid in the month, and we've convinced them that we can't do it that way. So we do it at least just twice, with this academic year and next academic year. Okay? So is that clear? Clearer than mud? Hey, for those of you that have seen me do this before, I'm at 48 minutes and I'm all the way through my presentation. So, so questions. Questions.
What's for dinner?
Sandwiches and chips this year.
For those of us who did the extended essay for the kids this year,
Uh-huh.
then it asks you the number of hours that you spent. So I put the total number of hours I spent face-to-face, is that correct?
You can do it either way. You can also do the number, you can
It said
include
it's
the,
communicating with the student, talking to the students. So that, I went, let's see.
well, and they may adjust that, but we'll still pay you for the other time.
Well, I'm assuming, but I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that you guys aren't matching it up and going, what?
No, if you choose a log and we see that it is.
I know, I was like, crap.
Right?
So I just kind of guess roughly, unless you want to give us our papers back and tell us what kind we put on those.
Well,
No, don't worry about that. So you can be compensated for up to 10 hours. The 8 hours you have between now and when the students finish, plus this hour of training, which is non-face-to-face, plus the dinner that we're going to up to an hour for that dinner, which is face-to-face.
which I didn't do last year, which is one.
Now, if you have any specific questions, I'm a resource, but 2 other resources you can go to are Sunny and Carla. They both went through the extended essay specific training this last year. So they got some real insights that they can help you as
Some
well.
really good stuff there, but it wasn't paying because it was online training.
Oh.
And there was
Or you
some-
could process it your own time instead of. That's probably fine.
Yeah, it was online, which has its advantages and disadvantages. However, for me, going to New Mexico is still underneath doing online. Going to New York is above them all for training, but the 2 times I've gone to New Mexico, great food, but I'm just a city boy. And I'm sorry, New Mexico up in the middle of, oh. Montezuma, New Mexico. It's got some great Cholula chandeliers in the dining room though, yeah, but yeah. Mhm.
It's got some really cool elements, especially if you're a nature lover.
Yeah, if you're a nature lover, Montezuma is the place to go. If you're me, New
Middle
York.
of freaking nowhere, and you think that's good.
Yeah.
You don't mind showering.
Lake Tahoe, all the way people.
Yes, Sunny.
You can also ask questions on the forum. On the
Yes.
IB. So these non-IB teachers, if they have questions, find the IB teacher in your subject area. We can post them and ask them for you.
Or you, so you,
Getting OCC login.
yes, you're all going to have access to the OCC, which is the Online Curriculum Center. And so IB teachers love to help other IB teachers. So the forums are really great.
But I think Sunny's been really great about sharing some of those things.
Yeah.
The Viva Voce document that you sent is very helpful.
Yeah, the Viva Voce document that came from that is also very good too. So, please, just don't take it on yourself. If the kid chooses to flake out, that's their choice. But also, be actively interested in what they're doing.
I make the kids bring everything to me.
And for you guys, you history teachers, I'm gonna do this for everyone, sorry. But history teachers, I mean, I'm gonna see all these kids next year, so if you have an issue with a kid not coming to talk to you or making up let me know, and I'll remind them to talk.
Paul will find kids next year and
Yeah, I can be very.
hunt them down.
So,
Good. Okay.
Please don't come to me and say I haven't seen this kid, they haven't turned in an assignment, because I really don't care. I mean, I do, but I don't. I can't make him come see you.
No, we can't. You can shoot me an email and say this kid has never shown up. That gives me an idea, but I'm not necessarily going to go after him.
I remind them in class, but
IB, we're really trying to teach them to be independent learners. Now, the purpose of this dinner tonight is that the majority of these little IB children are scared to death of each one of you. No matter what, they are. Okay? And hopefully this will help them feel a little bit more comfortable with you so that they won't be so scared to do their meeting. Their very next assignment is to meet with you and to go over what they looked at and did that you see before you on the paper, with why they think their subject is important, where they can go for research. They will also be taken to the University of Utah Library on March 16th. They will have full access to the library in the library. They can't have full access at home because they don't have a University of Utah student number. But they will have full access to all the library's facilities as an IB student between now and next May 31st. So they will go through training there. Suzanne's going to also train them on research here. They're going to have a lot of training on research and how to do it here and there. And they will have access to one of the best libraries in the world.
When is that trip?
March 16th. It's been on the IB calendar.
Like, what time
It's an all day.
morning?
It's
What
an-
time are you leaving?
It's an all day because we have Victoria Burton talk.
Well, no, I understand that. Do I get to have jazz band?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I meet
You will.
with Victoria in the morning, then we get on the.
Speaking of that, if you two together can talk to Victoria and see if she's available on that. Victoria Burton was the former coordinator here who built the program to begin with and is a reader for IB. We also have Michelle Shimon is also a reader for IB. Phil Talbot is a reader for IB. Judith McConkey is a reader for IB. John Olson, I think, is. Sunny Allen. Sunny, have you gotten anything back?
I've never heard anything back after you guys did your letters, they don't want me.
No, they do. They will. Well, the only reason they wouldn't want you is if they're overloaded in psychology or TOK. So, but any of the rest of you that are interested in becoming readers, especially if you're experienced IB teachers, let me know because they would love to have you as a reader. They're really trying to switch from college, university people to high school people as much as possible and IB teachers as much as possible, because we are the ones that have experience working with these kids and know what levels they're at and where they should be. So they are really heavily recruiting IB school teachers to be IB readers. Okay? So help them feel comfortable with you because they will never feel comfortable with me. Ever.
And we don't want them to.
Ever.
That's not true. Peter Kim says you're his bro.
Good old Peter Kim. Thank you very much. 8200 up there for dinner.
Minutes went too. That was
No.
for hours.
Do know that every year, Paul, now, just before we do this, I talk to my whoever's my assistant and the parents. Short and sweet and specific.
No minute to